Welcome to the 2013 Sun Meadows version of the Nutcracker, our annual musical ride.
Everyone here and say good afternoon. You truly are good Canadians. You braved the weather and you come out here and we know you'll enjoy it. I'd like to introduce Len and Yuta Jalous. They are the owners of this fine facility and have enabled us to all put this together and have some fun and present the 4th annual Christmas concert. Len and Yuta.
Thanks, Judy. Welcome to our 4th annual Christmas musical ride. This year we will perform the Nutcracker and truly hope that we do Tchaikovsky a little bit of justice. Before we start, we would like to use this opportunity to thank a group of people who made it possible to have the performance and also have been important to Sun Meadows throughout the year through their loyalty, support, and continuous hard work. We would like to thank Joanne Winter for her hard professional work and sheer personality. Joanne is a Sun Meadows riding instructor who worked a lot on the students with today's performance. Thank you to Therese Kige, who has spent numerous hours helping with the choreography and always is supportive in any way. Thank you to Carrie Jewel Harrison for her support and continuous hard work with the advertising, Facebook, and to keep the website fresh and updated in any task needed. Thank you to Pam Ketter for her support and who always volunteers to make our events happen, no matter how busy she is, and will be our storyteller today. Thank you to our MC, Jody Sloper, an instructor at Sun Meadows, who is always so generous with her time and never hesitates to give a helping hand. We cannot forget everybody working hard in the background. Tracy Comte, Sun Meadows instructor, who is going to watch the clock today, will look after the order to go today. Tracy Everett, Pat Cutler, Vanessa Johnson, Brianna Denaf, Salina Noon, Steve Archibald, Karen Bjerke, and Jessica Condon, all our helpbacks, Jilter and Christina, who worked very hard to bake the cookies today, so please make sure you take a few. Dave and Chrissy Biddlecombe, who are always helping out. Thank you for Hank Glenn and Corinne Smith, both instructing at Sun Meadows and continuously helping us to improve our riding in a positive and encouraging manner. Finally, a huge thank you to all of you to brave the cold and come to support and cheer our wonderful riders with their loyal horses. Enjoy the performance. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, Yuta and Glenn. We are going to have our dancers come in a moment as we're getting ready to start. But for some of you, this is the story of the Shellbaum family, in particular their daughter Clara. It was set in the late 1800s. The musical score was written by Tchaikovsky in 1892. So if our dancers would like to come in, I will introduce you. We have guests of the Drosselmeyers, Baron Glenn and Baroness Yuta Jalous, Lord Mark and Lady Carrie Jewel Harris, Aurelian, Astrid. Aurelian's easy to pick out. He's the only guy here amongst these beautiful women. We have Astrid, who has the white feather on. We have Pauline and Delphine. Pauline is in the blue, Delphine in the pink. We have Debbie. Where is she? Oh, she's in already. And Marvin. They all have come to celebrate with the Drosselmeyers. Oh, sorry, I missed two. We did this yesterday at practice and we were missing a few. So we have Jane and Jim dancing as well. Thank you.
Christmas Eve at the Stallbaums. The house was a blaze of lights. Through the window you could see the decorations and the twinkling lights of the giant Christmas tree. Inside this splendid mansion, the servants were bustling to put on final touches to the beautiful setting on the dinner table. Louise, Clara, and Fritz are so excited to find the guests arriving. In the clear frosty night, the sleigh bells tinkled melodiously as the drivers pulled up steaming horses to the entrance of the house. Out jumped the guests, crunching through the crisp snow and calling Merry Christmas greetings to each in high good humor. Once inside, the servants helped to remove their heavy fur coats and cloaks, revealing their splendid party clothes. In the great drawing room, the children chatted excitedly as the little girls admired each other's long dresses and colored sashes, while the boys stood on. As with the custom at Christmas, families are dressed in their very nicest dresses and suits. Come and see the Christmas tree," cried Louise. All the children followed and stood gazing at it wide-eyed. No one had ever seen such a magnificent tree. The base of the giant fir tree could not be seen at all, for it was completely covered with brightly wrapped presents. You can imagine how hard the children tried to make out the labels, so they would know in advance which of the marvelous gifts would soon be theirs. "I think the big red box is mine," cried Fritz. No, it's mine," argued Clara. Children, calm down. You're making too much noise. Anyway, look, Herr Drosselmeyer is arriving." Herr Drosselmeyer's present. At the sound of his name, all the children rushed to the door. Herr Drosselmeyer was an old friend of the family and much loved by the children, for he always brought the most fascinating presents, and he could perform the most intriguing conjuring tricks. There he was, staggering through the doors, his arms laden with packages and gifts wrapped in gaily colored paper and tied with bright ribbons. Squealing with excitement, the children danced around him. One by one, the gifts were handed out. Shrieking with delight, each child opened their package. A doll, a drum, a clockwise soldier. Turning to Clara, Herr Drosselmeyer said, "And this is for my little Clara." Clara was his goddaughter, and Herr Drosselmeyer always brought her something particularly delightful. She was his favorite. Eagerly, the little girl took the package and thanked the old man politely. In a moment, she ripped off the wrapping, and there was the most magnificent nutcracker, in the shape of a soldier, wearing a brilliant uniform, with a feather plum in his hat. "Oh, Godfather, thank you, said Clara. "He must be the most handsome soldier in the whole world." But Fritz was jealous. As the guests were going into dinner, he snatched the nutcracker from Clara's hands and jumped on it. When Clara saw her handsome soldier in pieces, she burst into tears. Her noisy weeping brought her parents hurrying back into the room. Ashamed of his squabbling children, Dr. Stolbaum scolded Fritz. Now, said Herr Drosselmeyer, "it's just too much excitement. No harm done." And to everyone's amazement, he picked up the broken nutcracker and miraculously mended it. "There you are, Clara," he said, handing back the nutcracker to the little girl. "Wipe your tears. Now he's as good as new." The quarrel was soon forgotten, and the party got underway. It was quite late when the dancing ended, and now the children were all very sleepy indeed. Clara had fallen asleep in a chair, so Nurse picked her up and carried her upstairs to her bed. The guests began to leave, waving back to their hosts as they climbed into their carriages. Herr Drosselmeyer was the last to go. Passing the chair where Clara had been sleeping, he spotted the nutcracker, and picking it up carefully, he laid it to the foot of the Christmas tree. After saying goodbye to Dr. and Mrs. Stolbaum, the old man left. Clara slept for a while. She awoke to find the house quiet and dark. She reached for her nutcracker, but it wasn't there. She remembered leaving it on the chair. She was determined to fetch it. Clara had never been alone downstairs in the dark. It was really spooky. Holding her long nightdress up, she opened the heavy oak door carefully and slipped into the drawing room. The only light in the room came from the huge fireplace. Clara tried to find her nutcracker. "Oh, there it is," she exclaimed, as she spied it under the tree. As she bent down to pick it up, she was startled by the striking of the grandfather clock. Tink, tink, tink. It was midnight. the Christmas tree grows. Clara was very frightened, and when she turned towards the clock, she thought she saw Herr Drosselmeyer's face looking at her. But a moment later, it had disappeared. Shivering a little, Clara bent down, when 3 mice ran out from the shadows and began to sniff at her. Horrified, she scrambled to her feet, and she was just about to pick up the Nutcracker when, to her amazement, up he stood, all by himself. As the Nutcracker raised his arm with a flourish, the room became lighter, and the Christmas tree began to grow. It was enormous. Clara stared in wonder, and when she turned to look at the Nutcracker, she found to her surprise that she was staring up into his smiling face. Wow! He had grown taller than she was.
Now we are going to have the toy soldiers to the rescue. As the toy soldiers come in to rescue Clara, I'll introduce them as they're mounting. This is a very young group of youngsters who ride here at the stables, and I'm going to give you a quiz halfway through, and you're going to have to tell me how many times some of these horses perform. All right, so take a good look at the horses. They are truly our heroes. Okay? Yep. For those of you who are not familiar with horses, you'll notice that there's some pretty distinctive markings on all of these ones coming in. They're either rather plain or they're rather fancy with their color. So take a good look at them. All right, first to mount up will be Nicole Gelfimo, riding, she's the Mouse King. She's riding Shiny, who's a 9-year-old quarter horse, and you'll see him doing some fancy stuff later. Joyanne, who's one of the instructors here, will be leading Shiny with Nicole aboard. And getting on to the dark horse with the white stockings, we have Jane Hamilton on Jammin. Jane is 7, as is Nicole. And Jammin is a 10-year-old quarter horse paint thoroughbred. That's what I call the Canadian warm blood. You'll see some European ones a little later in the show. So we have Nicole and we have Jane up. Okay, and the Appaloosa going to the mounting block now, being led by Dory. That's Kaz, he's 9 years old. And Simrat is going to be riding him. So this one should be pretty identifiable for you. So this is number 1. And next to go to the mountain block, we have I think they changed horses on me. I'll have to go find out. A few people didn't make it to practice yesterday. So we have Vanessa leading the horse. Blaze, this is Blaze, I know Blaze. He came from the Kootenays. And who's riding him? Vanessa? Who's riding? Oh, Nimrod. Okay. So we just had double putting in two changes there. Okay, so I don't know how old she is, but I bet you it's about 7 or 8. But you can see these are riders starting out. Oh, she's 4. Oh, I blew it. All right, I think she's our youngest. We are going to see the oldest competitor in here, or participant, I should say, in a little while. So we have a 4-year-old, and we're going to have a 30-year-old horse. So that will be fun to see. It comes a little later on. All right. Oh, we have one more. Right, Felice. Okay, we have Geordie Jones, who's 8, being led by Jess Condon, and she's riding Felice, a quarter horse cross mare. This horse has evented, and any of you who know equestrian sports know that eventing is quite an exciting sport for horses to be involved in. And here's Felice being an absolute gentle woman. Okay, and next we have Shiny, who is a 9-year-old quarter horse being led by his owner, Jessica, and we'll see them performing individually a little later on. He has his own specialty in terms of the sport he's involved in. And riding Shiny, oh, this has changed too. Oh, okay. Nicole is riding, and Nicole is 7. And at the end, we have, down at the bottom, we have Dalgo, who's a 14-year-old paint, and he's being ridden by Mattia Bellamy, and led by Jessica Chappell. They're on.
Toy soldiers to the rescue. A horrid sound of squealing made Clara jump, and she was horrified to see an army of mice approaching. Leading them was a monstrous giant of a mouse with a crown on its head. Terrified, Clara jumped up into a large velvet armchair and huddled down, tucking her feet under her nightdress. Or was it her nightdress? It seemed to be a silken party gown. Now at her feet, Clara heard a strange click-clacking noise. It came from Fritz's box of toy soldiers. She watched in astonishment as the lid of the box flew open and the toy army emerged. Led by the Nutcracker, the soldiers attacked the mice. Soon, both armies were engaged in a fearful battle. The soldiers seemed to be losing, and Clara watched in horror as the Mouse King lashed out at the Nutcracker, who fought desperately to avoid his hideous teeth and claws. "I must do something," said Clara, and jumped off the chair to help. In a flurry, she pulled her slipper and threw it at the Mouse King. It hit him right on the nose. He fell to the ground. The spell was broken, and the mice disappeared, defeated. have a quiet clap. Sometimes the horses are a little bit surprised with this clapping once the kids stop.
Thank you very much. Did a good job today. I think if you come back next year for our 5th annual, you'll see a lot of these young people riding on their own. But we always err on the side of safety. Horses can light up a little bit. They get a bit emotional when there's all these people sitting down the side that aren't normally here when they're being ridden. So they did a very good job with the choreography. Thank you very much. Now we're going to come to an exciting part here. And I did forget to introduce our Clara, who's being played by Riley Bumby. And Clara tells me she's 6. You'll see her getting into one of the buggies in a moment, or carts. And we have Dexter Deneve, who's a very charming young man, and tells me he's almost 10. He wasn't going with the 9 years of age. He'll be 10 in a week or so. Okay, and he'll be getting into the other one. All right, now we have to set up our props while these horses leave, and we'll bring in 2 minis. So I hope you identified every one of those horses, because that'll be in the quiz. All right. Now we have coming in miniature horses, 2 of them being driven by Lacey Lynn Bormke, and she has Twinkle, who's a 6-year-old. Yesterday, Twinkle thought it was a lot of fun in here, so hopefully she's settled down for today. And we have Glenn Jalouse, he is driving Johnny, who's an 8-year-old miniature. And a lot of people think miniatures are ponies, but in fact, they are not ponies. They've been bred over the generations to become small horses, and you get quite a bit of difference in conformation by the way that they're formed. That's conformation. We have to set up our props because they have a little pattern to do. You'll see how small. Minis are used a lot, just like big dogs, and they work them in harness. You'll see they're pretty small to be able to be ridden. But they're generally pretty gentle, and people who've gone past riding and don't want to be that high off the ground can still enjoy the smell of horses, which is very important to those of us who love it. All right. We have Lady Jewel Harris down there has been put to work. I think you can open it. We just wanted to make sure the horses were out when the door goes up, because it can make them scoot. Here we come. Twinkles and Johnny.
Off to the kingdom of sweets. The Nutcracker stooped to pick up Clara's slipper. As his fingers grasped it, he was changed into the most handsome prince in a sparkling suit. Clara was dazzled. She looked at her own dress. It was a shimmering silver gown, just like the one worn by the fairy princess in her favorite storybook. As she looked at the Nutcracker prince, he stared back at her, and they fell in love that very second. "Thank you for saving my life, fair princess," said the prince. "Now you shall come with me on a magic journey to the sparkling kingdom of sweets," he declared. All of a sudden, Clara found she was gazing at the most enchanting winter scene. Snow-covered hills and shining fir trees glistened in the moonlight. Clara recognized her own Christmas tree had grown huge. Its branches would bow down at the weight of the snow they carried. Snowflakes were falling as the two magic carriages appeared to carry Clara and the prince away to his kingdom to meet with the Sugar Plum Fairy.